Did you hear about the story of Persephone? Persephone was a Greek goddess of spring and vegetation. Youthful and beautiful, she was never far from her mother Demeter, the goddess of agriculture, fertility, and harvest. Demeter loved deeply her daughter, and together, they wandered through the mortal world bringing care and life to nature. One day, as Demeter was tending to Earth's children, she led her daughter away from her sight for but a split moment. Persephone ventured deeper into the forest, following a strange scarlet butterfly that grasped her attention. But as she walked, she heard a sound and realized she wasn't alone. Here before her was the god of the underworld himself, Hades. Demeter felt that something was wrong. In a rush, she flew through the forest. She looked everywhere and screamed for her daughter, but Persephone was nowhere to be seen. Worry and fury surged through Demeter's mind, and she unleashed her power to scatter the trees into the sky and empty the land. But still, Persephone was nowhere to be seen. On the ground lay a broken tiara of flowers that her daughter loved to make. Demeter held those flowers dearly and roamed the world searching for her daughter. Grief and despair finally overcame her, and soon the once mighty goddess was left but a husk of her brilliance, shattered by the disappearance of her beloved child. As Demeter's heart broke, so did nature around the world. Trees and flowers withered, the soil grew barren, and the land deprived of Demeter's loving care soon turned cold and frozen as the animals famished. Mortals were rapidly besieged by hunger and cold. Many fell as the once proud cities turned to suffering and misery. Overcome with despair, men sent their pleas to the gods, begging them for forgiveness and divine intervention. Zeus, who noticed the worship of mortals was declining, was greatly angered. He commanded the messenger of the gods, Hermes, to go to the underworld and retrieve Demeter's daughter from Hades. Hermes obeyed Zeus's command and descended into the depths of the underworld, passing through the shadowy realms until he arrived at the throne of Hades. Standing before the imposing figure of the ruler of the dead, Hermes felt a chill run down his spine.
Hades, this cannot continue. The king of the gods commands you to release Persephone's daughter at once.
Hades was unwilling to comply with the command, for he did not wish to see her leave, but knew that Persephone wanted to go back to the surface world and he could not stop it. Conflicted, he decided to give Persephone a pomegranate, for it is known that any who consume from the underworld shall forever be bound to it. Hermes took Persephone to the surface and reunited her with Demeter. Persephone's heart broke seeing the state of her mother. Once vibrant and full of life, she was now withered and wilted, a husk of her brilliance. As she slowly came closer, Demeter began to stir, and life seeped back into her veins. The goddess blossomed in full splendor as the world around teemed with vitality, while flora and fauna alike responded to her rejuvenating touch. Demeter hugged her daughter in bliss and happiness, and soon, they walked the world again as if their parting was but a distant nightmare. Demeter wished to believe that this joy would be unending. But as Persephone enjoyed her return to the surface, a thought creeped her mind. Of this dark god who took everything from her and yet still occupied her thoughts.
"Daughter, is something wrong?"
said Demeter. Persephone was unable to answer. Often was she seen absently gazing at the horizon, until that, one day, her hand reached for the pomegranate. Slowly, she pushed it against her lips and took the forbidden bite. Eating the fruit created a connection to the underworld, and she became bound to that realm, changing her forever. From now on, she would need to spend a portion of her time in the underworld, for she was no longer a being belonging to the living. Hades appeared before her, as if he had been waiting for this moment forever. Demeter rushed to protect her daughter, but even she knew that this was not something she could stop. Persephone hugged her mother to ease her pain, promising her that this separation would be but a fleeting moment. From now on, the world would become a testament to this, in what would become known as the seasons. Spring represents Demeter's joy and relief upon the return of Persephone from the underworld. Demeter's happiness is reflected in the blooming flowers, budding trees, and fertile fields. Summer symbolizes Demeter's contentment and satisfaction as she enjoys the time spent with her daughter on earth and life flourishes under their care. Autumn marks the beginning of Demeter's grief as Persephone prepares to return to the underworld. The changing colors of the leaves reflect Demeter's sadness and resignation as she prepares to endure another period of separation. And finally, winter represents the depths of Demeter's despair and sorrow as Persephone descends into the underworld. With Persephone gone, Demeter's grief plunges the world into darkness and cold as she awaits the return of her beloved daughter and the renewal of life in the spring. Many different versions depict the story of Persephone and whether she is willing to return to the underworld. One thing for sure, however, is that Demeter is but a reminder of a mother's endless love for her child. And Hades, though he may have abducted her, truly loved Persephone and by many accounts treated her with care and affection, far better than what befell his fellow gods' targets of affection.